some time. This is the entrance. My name is Ivona Price, and I am CEO of Intercult. Intercult is an NGO, an independent production and resource hub for international projects based in Stockholm. We serve as a hub for local, regional, and international cultural exchange. And we are proud to be an initiator and the leader of collaborative cultural projects, networks, and sharing international and intercultural project competence. What I have here with me are some slides from our work, which will be just in the loop behind me. And I am reading my speech. I am sorry for that. So this 3-day or 4-day, because we actually started yesterday, international gathering in Stockholm is a part of the wider Turning the Tide project, which is led by Intercult and co-funded by European Union's Creative Europe, and here in Stockholm in Sweden by the Arts Council. We are collaborating with Glasgow, Gdańsk, Vienna, and Evia, which were the places for the labs, for the urban labs, the format which is actually well known in the research environment, but not that well known in the cultural studies or cultural environment. We are joined today by cultural workers, artists, urban planners, researchers, policymakers, and activists. And this mix of expertise, ranging from cultural professionals to urban planners and climate scientists, is exactly what we need to tackle the complex challenges facing our cities. I am not saying solving, because that ambition is much too high, but we are trying to handle it in our way. Our meetings and discussions over the next 3 days, that will be October 15-17, will take place across 3 venues. Here at Vrak by the waterfront, at Kulturhuset, a well-known spot in the city of Stockholm, and Stadsgårdsterminalen on Friday evening, which is an industrial harbor site reimagined as a space for contemporary artistic expression. So Turning the Tide is a 36 months, 3 years international project that Intercult is very proud to lead. The project is, as I said, supported here in Sweden by the Swedish Arts Council as co-financing. Our work is to build upon a pan-European conversation involving via European cities Stockholm, Gdańsk, Vienna, Evia, and Glasgow. We are partnered with organizations and collaborations like Wiener Bildung Academy from Austria, Urban Culture Institute from Gdańsk in Poland, Artit in Greece, Deer Hunter in Netherlands, Fable Vision in Scotland, and the Pan-European Network River Cities. The project Turning the Tide has supported 42 artists all over Europe, out of which 10 in Sweden. We collaborated with big events like the opening of Project Slussen during the spring here in Stockholm in the Old Town, and we have been also a major part of the major events like the Stockholm Culture Festival. Our belief is simply simple but powerful. Making art is actually making the world better. Turning the Tide uses socially engaged artist practice as its cornerstone and the main area of focus. The project objectives include creating positive and open networking places, piloting new ideas with target groups, and offering high-quality training and peer-to-peer learning for artists and practitioners. So key activities, which you also can see on the slides, include artistic residencies, both local and international, the creation of cartopological maps of the participating cities, major events such as Climate Summit in Glasgow, international urban labs like this one in Stockholm, which foster transdisciplinary approaches that cross various sectors and domains. In these labs, artists work to expose the distinct DNA of a location, including its culture, heritage, myths, and built environment as a rich resource for building the future. Artistic work is developed as prototype based on listening to local citizens, which city planners can subsequently incorporate into future plans. The labs support a transition towards more participatory governance. Art is a vital tool to communicate complex climate issues. We use performance, installations, and interactive works to spark curiosity and dialogue. Art doesn't just talk about climate change. It immerses people in it, making them feel, reflect, and act. So here in Stockholm, I am sorry, our lab focuses specifically on one of the city's most crucial resources, water. Our event focuses on Slussen, which part of you has seen this morning as a study visit. And Slussen is our most important technical water installation with a new lock that separates the lake and the sea. Supposed to last 80 years, supplying the city with the drinking water. Few of us consider that the water in our tap today has been stored in Lake Mälaren for 10-15 years before it reaches us, and that it may end in 2050. How old will you be in 2050?
No, we don't know.
I'm just wondering, are we working for us or for the future generations? So this is precisely where the culture steps in. Culture is at the heart of the shift we need to visualize for ourselves. Our project creates a platform for collaboration, new friendships, brave ideas, supporting dialogue with whoever wants to listen, and hopefully adding a pinch of awareness and will to act. So today, the 15th of October, our focus is art as a force for social change. That day is dedicated to connecting creativity with concrete strategic approaches and is designed to move us from awareness to driving real-world impact. We will emphasize the interdisciplinary exchange between artists and scientists. We begin with the crucial dialogue between urban planning, cultural planning, and water management with Johannes Tovat from Sweden, Astrid Rompold from Vienna, and Lia Gilardi from United Kingdom. Later, we will explore international approaches, including the presentation of the cartopological map of Stockholm by Dear Hunter, to see here on the table later on. We will also take a look into discussions on climate change and artistic research on biodiversity with examples from Seestadt Vienna by Bernd Herger and the Polish artist Kamila Homicz. And hear about vital work related to social engagement through art, such as focusing on post-fire recovery in Greece, with Valia Altmani and Froso Papadimitriou, and examples from Baltic Sea water management in Gdańsk, Poland, with Natalia Cyzan and Bartosz Zimniak. The loaded program of the Stockholm Lab will give you the direct access to international experts and practitioners. We have a full program ahead, so thank you once again for joining us, and let's take a look at the state-of-the-art examples from Battlefield of Art as a force for social change. And you know that the conference continues tomorrow and on Friday. So to formally open our proceedings, it's now an honor to invite Her Excellency Mag Doris Danler, the Austrian ambassador in Sweden, to the stage for the opening remarks. So, Mrs. Doris Danler, please take the floor.
Something was wrong with the need to put them up here. Thank you. Can I move it a bit?
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this gathering that begins not with politics, not with statistics, hopefully not with fear, but with people and with imagination, and with something that is very often underestimated: art and culture. Art doesn't claim to have all the answers, but it does ask the hardest questions. It holds up a mirror to society, makes the invisible visible, and sometimes the unspoken urgent. In a world flooded with data and overwhelmed by noise, art cuts through. Art has the power to move us before it convinces us, to stir sympathy before it demands action, and to give voice to those who haven't been heard before. Throughout history, artistic expression has shaped revolutions, changed power, and helped societies to imagine new futures. Austria's own cultural journey offers one example among many. At the turn of the 20th century, artists like Gustav Klimt and Egon Schiele, together with the Vienna Secession, challenged convention and decided that to every age it's art, and to every art it's freedom. And actually it's still written on their building until today. They believed that art should not serve authority, but question it. That creativity must reflect the complexity of a human being. Even today, from Vienna's contemporary art spaces to community-driven projects across Austria, Austrian creativity continues to push boundaries and connect the local with the global. It shows how art can bridge histories, geographies, and perspectives. A conversation that is never complete, but always evolving. Today, as we explore art as a force of social change, I invite you to think not only about the famous art movements or famous artists, but also about the everyday acts of creativity that challenge norms, inspire hopes, and plant the seed of change. Because sometimes a brushstroke, a melody, a story can shift society more deeply than any law ever could. That's why it's so important that this event brings together voices from across borders and disciplines. Because today's challenges do not recognize national boundaries, and neither should our solutions. International collaboration is not just helpful, it is essential. Over the next few days, you will encounter installations, performances, discussions, and ideas that challenge, hopefully unsettle and inspire. You will experience how art communicates complex climate issues, foster public engagement, and inspire action. You will hear from artists, from scientists, urban planners, citizens. And I am proud about the number and the variety of participants from Austria, several artists, politicians, a historian, urban planners. Each of them offering one piece of the puzzle. Turning the Tide, the Stockholm lab, is a true laboratory of possibilities, where creativity provides direction. Let's hold on to one simple truth. When art and society move together, positive change becomes possible. So I wish you a very successful conference and an inspiring time in Stockholm. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was an honor to have you here. Hello, everyone. From my side, I'm Elisabeth Papageorgiou. I'm International Coordinator and Curator at Intercult, and I will be hosting the rest of the event. A bit of practicalities issues. I hope that you all got your tags here and you answered your questions. But you can also scan here and you will see the full program of the day. It's also over there. And after the event, you will see some QR codes around. It's for our evaluation. It's really needed for the future. So please take like 1 minute to give us your reflections on the day. So let's continue with the program. And next, we have a dialogue between urban planning, cultural planning, and water management. We are expecting here and welcoming Johannes Tovat, architect and urban planner, Leah Gilardi, urban strategist and cultural planner from the United Kingdom, and Astrid Rompold, member of Vienna City Council and Vienna State Parliament, head of communications department of Wiener Wasser. Thank you so much. I will put some, maybe I need some help with some chairs here over here. No, you can. It's okay. I will fix that for you. Thank you. That's not so polite that you do this yourself. Johannes, this is your microphone. Thank you. Maybe you can sit a little bit on the back. Yeah, but maybe it's better because for us easier to see. Like that? Yes, perfect.
Thank you. I got ghost pimples from your introductory speech here about the arts and the culture and the future. Thank you. I had the opportunity a few days ago,
I'm so
weeks
sorry.
ago.
I forgot my mic.
So do I need this?
Whatever it is.
Okay, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's something
Light.
technical. Hopefully less important. I had the opportunity a few days ago to travel in Ukraine for about a week to meet people mainly and to attend a conference about urban planning, rebuilding, water and the arts, one could say. And what was so interesting to experience is the change of culture, if I make it a little bit less complicated. The way people moved on the streets, the way, sort of the social culture in terms of how people collaborate in space. And also in the pure talking, that it's about cut the crap, let's talk about important things. And how the everyday life is also changing rapidly and dramatically. That during the daytime you work with your work, and in the evening you serve the armed forces by supplies, for example. And it was such an interesting experience in terms of I felt like in my childhoods when people didn't have telephones or things that you mentioned, that there was suddenly space and time for talk and real life. And what does it say about what we're going to talk about? God knows. But I was thinking about the very pure essence of the human being, in a sense, or the human culture. It appears in the last 50,000 years that we want to be part of something. We are together. It's a sort of a one basic things, and we want to express ourselves, sing or dance or be part of this group, but express in this group. And we want to eat and drink, or hunt and dig, maybe. But and in a sense, I think that could represent our three topics today. The being together is maybe in the arts, the eat and drink, maybe that's the water, and maybe whatever urban planning is, I don't know. So anyway, I would like to introduce here, and I'm going to read. Leah, an internationally renowned expert in cultural planning and urban development. So far, correct. Leah is the founder of Noema, a consultancy that specializes in helping cities and communities harness their cultural assets for sustainable growth and revitalization. Hopefully. Let's go for it. With extensive experience working across Europe, you collaborate with local authorities, planners, and community groups to develop strategies that enrich urban environments through culture and creativity. Would it be correct to say that you represent the collective consciousness by helping the importance of creativity in this body of social life?
Probably yes.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Equally delighted to introduce Astrid Rompot, you've been mentioned, from Austria. A leading expert in water management and sustainable urban development, looking at you. Astrid works in Wien Wasser, the city's water department in Vienna, Austria, where you are at the forefront of innovative projects aimed at enhancing water resource management and integrating sustainability into the city structure. Yeah. Would it be correct to say that you are an ambassador, for the harmonious balance between urban growth and the wells or the springs of life hidden in the surrounding mountains of Vienna?
It would be an honor to be. It would be an honor.
Good. So now we are on track. Let's say, as I vaguely stated here in the beginning, that we three, urban design architecture, shaping environments, and the culture in a broader sense, and water is actually the same thing, that we are very much related. And Astrid, if you first, what does it really mean to plan ahead when it comes to water, and how would you like the water to be understood? That's a question.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me on this wonderful building, very interesting water-closed building. For me, actually, I had a technical education, and one of the teachers, one of the lecturers, Mr. Koch, he was a very stiff, actually really stiff person. If you saw him, he said one thing which I will never forget. He said, water increases comfort. And every day I experience that this is so right. If you look for a place to live, if you go outside, or if you only are searching for a place for your lunch break, you're looking for a place where you feel well. And usually, where do you feel well? You feel well in places with two elements, places with water and places with greenery. So actually it could be so easy to make us feel comfortable in our flat, in our houses, in our cities, in our working places. We need water and we need greenery, plants, flowers. And on the other side, if you change the perspective, if there is greenery, there will come insects, there will come butterflies, there will come birds, there will come other animals, other creatures. Why? Because they also feel comfortable. So where there is water, where there is greenery, there will be life. And this is what makes a good quality of life. Again, I must say, it could be so easy. So if this kind of thinking goes ahead when we start to plan, I think we have done a lot of basic work.
And the arts and water, they are related, right?
Yes, of course. Shall I answer now?
Yeah, yes, why not?
Yes, actually, it has to be related. If we were talking in a smaller group before midday about the water supply of Vienna, and someone thought it has been there for more than 1,000 years because of the aqueducts. We have 130 aqueducts leading the water from the mountains to the city. And of course, the ancient Romans were the ones who invented the aqueducts. I guess they invented them. And actually, aqueducts are not only technical constructions, they are also art. And it would be great if we would nowadays also always think, how can we make a technical construction, a technical building, the most beautiful construction, so that the ancient Romans thought water is such a precious thing. You must have the possibility to see it from the first glance. You must see it's about something very precious. So they don't saw the technical building in the first step. They saw the precious, the treasure actually. And I think this is where we could start maybe.
Leah,
Yes.
what do you see out there in the arts, the culture, as our way forward?
Okay. I have a story and a bit of statistics. First, with the background, I started as studying sociology long time ago, where we occupied the university all the time. So the sociology I learned was really from the street and from the culture of the city I was living in at the time. So since then, a lot has changed in my professional life. I jumped across different disciplines. So I studied a bit of planning, a bit of urbanism, and then cultural management as well in different countries. So I'm a bit of a hybrid. But I prefer, at this point in time, to call myself a cultural urbanist. So I pick from every bits and pieces of information I can get, and then I form my own principles and theories of interpreting society as it is now, and interpreting the role of culture in the society as it is now. Now, first, I promised a piece of statistics of information. A recent Earth for All survey across 17 of the G20 countries, 68% of the people surveyed prioritize well-being over profit when asked the question, how do you feel about where society is now? How do you feel about growth in your city, in your society? 78% they said they prefer well-being, prioritizing well-being over GDP and productivity. 62% believe the national success should be measured by the well-being of citizens, not economic output. Now that makes you think, the well-being of citizens. Now, here comes the question of culture, and here comes the story. When I was growing up in a small town in Italy, in the north of Italy, I was about 14 years, and I was going from middle school to higher school. It was a difficult time because my grandparents died within 40 days from each other. So I was like grieving, but I didn't know I was grieving. So what I did, so my way of understanding that, it was to pick up books. It was to go to the local library, and I dropped down from school. It's very emotional. So for 6 months, I read fiction, day after day after day. Now, it's culture. Where is culture in that? Culture is everywhere in that. Fiction, for example, reading, helps us to enter and live the life of a character while at the same time coming to terms with your relationship with the world. Now, that process of reading and growing through the kind of fictional characters and you interpreting your relationships and taking different paths according different than the characters you have seen. That is what culture does. Culture mediates, helps you to grow, opens up vistas, opens up your heart, your emotions. You learn to cope, you learn to, you open up your imagination to different scenarios for your life. So culture then, in my view, should be everywhere, and culture is foundational to the society we're living now, more than ever before, because we live in a society that is broken, and we talked yesterday about the reasons, etc. But a society that needs healing. In all the world, land grabbing, all the problems we have, we don't go over that. So we need culture as that ground to solidify our citizenship, our commonality as human beings, in a way. And then dialogue will come, and then buildings will come, and then planning will come, and so on. And was I too long?
Thank you, probably, but that's very nice.
I was
belong.
nearly crying.
Is someone keeping an eye on the watch so we don't? 10 minutes to go. Thank you. Yeah, you gave your perspective. I'll do mine very short. I'm, as I said, an urban planner and an architect, and I've had the unique opportunity to work in Vienna. I'm a Swede, but 20 some odd years ago, I won a huge international competition. Architects often compete with one another, and that was the old airport not the airport, airfield rather, in to the east, to the poorer side of Vienna, northeast. And since then, I'm working every bloody day with that project. 20 years later. And I managed to learn some German on my way to that. And in the middle of that project is a lake. So it has been named Seestadt, the lake, Sjöstaden, the lakeside city. And in about architecture and urban planning, I often say that urban design has to be an act of love, in a sense, because it's like the water. It has these structures that we build up or support or embrace, they got to be part of something. They flow. So urban design is about flows, about creating, making it understood, so you understand the city, but also the opposite, to create possibility to escape. So this kind of balance between the public, the manifest of the social or the society or the group of people or whatever, but also the private. So this is kind of this balance between, and hopefully then the culture is expressed, the culture we think is good for the future. So back to some questions, depending on our time and how speedy we are and how intelligent we are. The number one, let's say then we are part of the same, the three of us. We work with social resources, the environmental resources, and the emotional, non-material resources. What does it take to increase the collaborative methods between our respective professions in general and maybe short? What do you think? Yeah, would you like to start?
Okay. I think it takes, first of all, an acknowledgement that we are in a crisis and that we need to collaborate and cooperate. So the word is collaboration, cooperation. The second element is interdisciplinarity. So we need to, each of us, need to abandon the straitjacket of whatever profession we've been sent by our parents, grandparents, or dynasties, or families, or whatever. Understand that we are living in a world that needs all of us, all of our qualities, interests, and knowledge pulled together in order to contribute to changing the questions we are asking about society and growth. So the questions we are going to ask is, how can we live better together, and how we as professionals can we enable that change?
Perfect. And you?
Yeah.
Do you want to have the question again?
No, it's okay. I think I can continue where you not really stopped, but
Yeah.
gave me the microphone. Actually, it's exactly that. I think the easiest way to do it is to have a citizen participation, because very often in the beginning there are people who are saying, for example, we are planning some urban area, but we don't have enough money, or we are planning some urban area, but it's very important that, I don't know, pedestrians have a good space to go, to have where is the road and where can the bicycle lane go through. But there are so many perspectives. To give a practical example, we were planning the Praterstraße in Wien, actually a boulevard, and alley, very beautiful, but actually the road was quite broken, and it took us, I think, 4 years to ask people who were living there, to ask people who had their shops, their stores there, to ask everyone, what is important to you? And this went into the planning of this big boulevard, and it's great what they made out of this, because we have so many hundreds of perspectives actually, and it's not difficult to do it, to get their opinions inside the planning. That helps a lot. I think this is one step, to have even the cultural perspective automatically inside the planning, and holistic approach for this planning of these urban areas.
Very nice. I go straight into question 2 and introduce it a little bit. Many years ago, I got to know a German artist, landscape architect, water expert, and urban planner. His name is Herbert Dreiseitel. And he came from the so-called Waldorf movement, the Steiner schools, phenomenon both in Sweden and in Germany, of course. And he always, I looked up to him a lot, and he always talked about water and the arts and the culture he always stressed a holistic approach, which in a sense it's simplifying things. You can say you see it as a big connected issue. And he also talked about integrated design. And that was many, many years ago. And he really meant something about integrated design, that design is taking all these things into account. You plan for much bigger vision than just a detail. And he had, of course, the ability to express and illustrate his thoughts and ideas and collaboration with the broader community. And I often think about him. 3 minutes to go. We are getting close. We are having fun in here in the front. I've always been wondering, have we lost our ability to see and work with the right things in our respective professions, so that this kind of holistic approach is embarrassing or not relevant? Have we been so obsessed by the measurables that we are no longer the human being we were born to be? So,
this is my hobby horse, so I try to stay as substantial. Yes, clearly we have adopted the kind of metrics of measuring success or failure of projects or anything according to metrics which are dictated by the markets and by commercial concerns. So I think that's one of the problems. The other problem is that I don't think we have worked holistically until now. I think I can see a lot of silos when I work with municipality across Europe, but outside Europe as well. So we need to relearn the techniques of talking to each other across disciplines, etc., but also techniques of using that liminal territory, which is the culture of the place we are working in, starting from there, actioning, getting action from there, activating the stakeholders, the participants, the people who live there, the citizens, etc. These are the glue that we are gonna have to use when we think holistically. And the last thing is that be mindful that whatever measure we take in one part of this ecosystem, we have to take it with strong considerations in respect to the whole, to the health of the whole ecosystem. So if we build too high, if we build a too bigger waterfront development, then we know the consequences of gentrification, and then we know the consequences of disastrous consequences on the other part of the ecosystem, which is the human beings that live there. So in conclusion, yes, we measure too much, and we're still measuring according to commercial, to the market. The market is measuring too much, and we need to shift to more intangible ways and make perhaps no measure, but let it go, let it happen, and that's where culture helps, and that's where culture is foundational if we have the right infrastructure in place. And the last thing I would say, start from where you are in the context. Go with the flow of the context you're working with to build ecosystems.
I think we're running towards the very end. So we had some kind of democratic topics here. To any questions, but there are
we can have one question.
We can have one question, and I have plenty of more questions and cards here, so we could actually continue down in the hall. No, I'm just joking. So questions.
We have a coffee break at 3:30
Okay.
for half an hour. Many questions.
So any spontaneous? Yes. On the mic.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this interesting discussion. You're talking about, especially you, are talking about culture and art almost interchangeably. I think it's easy to understand how culture in a wide sense can be used to engage, to create conversations, to build social relations, and what that does for a community. And in that sense, culture is very inclusive. Whereas art, I think, is often considered quite the opposite, exclusive. And I was just wondering if you would reflect on this a little bit, if you have anything to say about it.
We can make it super short, I think, because we had exactly this conversation behind the curtains here 5 minutes before on stage here. And so we agreed that we talk about culture, and less about the arts. So it's a long discussion, of course. So let's save it. But it's a super about what Lea, what you ended up so nicely with is the issue of simplicity in terms of the holistic view. And then it's very important to find the words. What are we talking about? Human expression or something that could be perceived as excluding. Any last word then? Okay, so famous
last words
takeaway.
about inclusiveness, for example. When the Vienna water supply went 150 years old, 2 years ago, the politician who was in charge of this whole thing, he said he wants to have a new fountain, a huge, great fountain to celebrate this very important anniversary. And there is an international, very famous group, Gelatin, maybe you know them. They are a bit crazy, thinking very out of the box. They invented a fountain consisted of, I think, about 40 creatures, man-like creatures, but really ugly creatures, part of them. And they were sitting in a circle, and through the circle they made a basin where the water is stored actually. And people said, oh my God, it's so ugly, how can you spend 2 million euros on this fountain? And I was thinking like, okay, it's really difficult to sell this like for public relations. But then they built the fountain, and when they opened it, there was a school class passing by, and they wanted to go to school to the left, but then they saw the fountain. And the children, they were between, 6 and 10 years old. They went there, and they were touching the figures and climbing on it and touching the water and enjoying it, and they were just curious. And for me, this is so really low level, attracting children with arts on the one side, with the water on the other side. For me, since this moment, for me, I had a total acceptance for myself for this fountain. I thought this was very, very great. And one sentence to what you said, to this holistic approach. A very beautiful example was, I think, Jenny's project in the Seestadt, because she has planned something different to do there. And then she went there and she saw everything's new, something old is missing. And then she brought this old boat. And this is, I think, also what you meant. Yeah. You have to be here on site. You cannot plan just from the sketch, from the skizze. You have to be there, talk to the people, and feel the context, and then start.
Well, can I say something about the arts? Because I think it's fundamental. Yes. I know.
One word.
I stand up and go. But so I think your question is fundamental, because we talk about arts and culture, but without funding for the arts, without supporting the writers that wrote those stories that inspired and helped me, etc., we wouldn't be here. So the arts are the foundations of the building of our society now, and the culture comes as an exchange based on the practice, on the engagement in the arts and the production of artworks, etc. So I think that's my view. So just to say, we still need to go back and think about funding for the arts and society really building arts rights, almost like a right for the individuals to live. So it's foundational to a society, harmonious society.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And of course, this dialogue could be for hours. And now I will take the opportunity to tell you that we have a short break at 2:35, and we have a longer break, a coffee break, at 3:30, and then we can continue with that. So next up, a session combining cartology and cartopology. We have here our dear hunter or dear friends and partners, Marlies Vermulder and Remy Cruiser. I'm trying here. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Is it okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for having me and a nice conversation. That definitely has to continue in the break, I think. Yeah, this is the fourth map we make for the project Turning the Tide. But before I go into who we are and what we have done, I would like to talk about this teeny tiny stone. It is, put this on, yes. It has three colors. It is black, it is brown, reddish, and it is somehow white and transparent. And I can pass it on. It's based of three minerals. Each color is one mineral. And that's all I know about that teeny tiny stone. I'm not a geologist, I'm not an archaeologist, I don't know anything about it actually. The only thing I know is that Sweden is full of it. It is some sort of granite on which all the art, all the culture, our whole foundation of the Swedish society is built upon. And yet we don't really look at that teeny tiny stone. We seem to forget it. It's so taken for granted, that little stone. And we have found it everywhere. We have found it, let me have a look, when we were camping on our way here in Hemstraat. Sorry for my pronunciation, I've tried, but 6 weeks is not long enough. Also here in the city center, where we had a great coffee at the social church of Stockholm, Stadsmuseum, yeah, whatever that place. Very good coffee, very beautiful square. Where even when it's super windy, people play jeu de boule. But also here, on this place, we could find it. On our way to Grinda, we could find it. Is it going? Okay, here in Vaxholm, another island in front of Stockholm. We could also find it in Södermalm, and if you're laughing now, wait and see this one. We could also find it here. That is when we arrived. We just were recovering from our own festival we organized, and we still needed to catch up a little bit on sleep. But also on that place, we could find stones like the little one that I just gave. Also here, we could find them. And here, of course, as well, everywhere we could find that little stone. Also over here, close to the sea, I can say there. And lastly, here in this cute little dog park, we could find it too. So we have been traveling for 6 weeks around Sweden. No, that's not true. We have been traveling around in the south of Sweden. That is what I should say. We haven't been higher up than Uppsala, unfortunately, which is only actually a teeny tiny bit of the beautiful country. And we come from the Netherlands, so this is again, it's the last picture of us, I promise, where we are at our...
I can help you, so you have some space.
It's okay, don't worry, it's fine, I think I'll fit. This is us on top of our mountain hut, which is called Mountain Hut Halfway. And it's halfway, don't laugh, we take it very seriously, the highest mountain of the Netherlands. It's at 339 meters and a half, and we're halfway, more or less. And we take mountains and how you look at mountains super serious. It makes you feel small, it makes you feel connected, it makes you look at every rock, it makes you see all the colors, it makes you humble, it makes you feel connected to another person with whom you try to summit a place. And also in the Netherlands, we take it very serious because that is how we depict the Mount Vaals, the highest point of the Netherlands. And for us, it's a way of looking at the world. It's a way of being sensitive. It's a way of being close to not only nature, but to environments, close to one another. And it's something that we tend to forget. And we're not at the summit, but we're halfway. And to relate to what has been told in the talk before, we have to be multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary or whatever you want to call it. So we have to be halfway our own discipline and open up to other disciplines. And that is hard. We never say it, but that's super hard. To collaborate with somebody that we don't know, that has other values, that has other meanings, that has other points of views, that's hard. We simply, I cannot stress that enough, but that is where good projects are taking place. Only this project, the Turning the Tide project, all the noses are actually the same direction, more or less. But there are people from Greece, there are people from Poland, people from the Netherlands, from Sweden. We all have different points of views. And yet there, and even though our noses are the same direction, it's already very difficult. We're managing super well, I think. So collaboration is being halfway, not trying to be at the top for us. So that's also one of the reasons why we like mountains. And we're not in Amsterdam or in The Hague or in a huge city, but we're really, really in the south east of the country, close to two other countries. So next year there will be this conference at our place, and I'm going to jump there, that little roundabout thingy, and here is the three countries point. So here, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany come together. And maps of mountains, so also this map of the mountain Vaals in the Netherlands, are super interesting. And I'm going to show this very briefly, but I'm going to explain it a little bit. Because this map is actually not one map, but it's made of three maps. Because national topographical maps have the tendency to stop at borders. What an idea. Because here in the middle of Schengen, we can cross the border without any problem. We feel safe even with one leg in one country and the other leg in the other. It is all fine. And still we make maps of only one country. So this map tried to do it differently. This map tried to combine three different maps together. And you can see that. I think the urban planner here, Alexander Tomat, had already seen it, that the city on the left side of the border is black and white. And all of a sudden you go to the right and it is pink and gray. Even though it's the same map, it's not the same city, but it's almost one city. The same for the green. The green here, it's not that the forest is so incredibly changing when you cross the border over there. So we use another legend. And you could say, how silly is this? It is. It is super silly. But this map is used a lot in our environment because it's one of the only maps that combines those three parts of those three countries. And what is on top of that, this map is made by the Belgian National Geographical Institute, and it only provides the Belgian legend. And that you could say that's super silly, again, yes, but I found that also super cool, because if you live in this region, you don't need the other legends, you just know. So in its incompetence, this map is showing so much of this region and of how people live there. by always having to be halfway legends, always having to be halfway legislation. So this map is actually showing very beautifully how we live there. And maps do that all the time. And also here, we were lucky to live just above one of the most famous publishers of maps of Scandinavia, Calazo, if I'm not mistaken. They make these beautiful maps of Lake Mälaren, if I'm pronouncing it well, I'm looking at Elizabeth. They make super beautiful maps. And Lake Mälaren is the lake that provides the whole of Stockholm and its surroundings with water. And Slussen is where it gets connected or not connected to the sea. So this is a super huge lake. It took us 2 days to drive all the way around it, and we came across a lot of cool stuff. But these are the maps that they make, and they have been made together, those maps, because it's maps for ice skating. It has been made together with organizations that organize ice skate competitions to know where it is safe when to ice skate. So it is a collaboration, a social collaboration somehow. So these are other maps they make, but maps are everywhere. Seriously. From now on, you'll see them everywhere. To give an example, this is a teeny tiny map. Let me have a look. For somebody I don't know because it's in Swedish, but that's where it is. And if you look on our Instagram account, you will find plenty of that sort of little videos because they are everywhere. And I bet in this museum, there's at least 20, at least. So saying that maps are old or that they're only digital or that we don't use them anymore, but bollocks. We use them all the time to understand where we are, to orient ourselves, to be able to look from a more abstract point of view. So how come we don't make more different ones of them? How come we always use the same types of maps to say that we live in so diverse world and we have so many difficult challenges, yet we use the same types of maps, probably based on maps like Google Maps. How sad is that? That is what Remy, who's standing there, and I try to overcome with what we call cartopology. Cartopology is a combination of cartography and anthropology. So we try to make maps by becoming dependent on a place. So by using anthropological fieldwork. So we stayed here to make our map of Stockholm. We stayed 6 weeks here, and we do that in every place. So every place we map, we stay there, we live there. So no, we don't do 2 projects at a time. It's impossible. I can't split myself in 2. So no, we can't let somebody else to do it. No, I want to be there. 1 project at a time, taking the time to become dependent on that place, and from there on, try to give or have some new insights. And because we're with a lot and standing around a table, and this map that we made for Stockholm, there's only 2 copies of them because they're a series of 4 and 2 have already been sold. We also made small versions of it that we can give you as some sort of sneak peek. You can see how this works. Oh, and it's with music right here. So we have been drawing. We have had the luck to work at Varkfabriken. Maybe some of you know that place, where you can also visit the map, which is, it's 1 for each, yes, sorry. Where the map is also being exhibited till the end of the week. So we have been drawing a lot, and drawing is, of course, super inefficient. It is. It takes a lot of time. I'm gonna stop those because they make a little bit too much noise for me. It's the first one, of course. Yes. It's super inefficient. It takes a lot of time just putting dots. Like a whole afternoon putting dots. I bet some of you would say, I would love to have a whole afternoon to just put dots. How cool would that be? I would just say, take that time. I mean, the world will keep on spinning. Nothing will actually change. The only thing that will change is you having the time to think about things and to think what those dots actually represent. And do I really do justice with those dots to what I actually want them to represent? And other people will read my map. Will look at it. Will I say the right things? Will I say the right stories? So I'm lucky. Yes, I can put those dots, but everybody can. So this is the final map that we made for Stockholm. It's also here. I think it will stay here the whole afternoon. If you want to have a closer look at the other moment just in the break, come to us and we can have a chat. We also have the map of Vienna, so the very beautiful pipeline Astrid was talking about. We have it here on the map. And we also have the map of Greece with us, which still smells to beeswax or soy wax, actually. So we can have a look at them later. But this is the map of Stockholm, and it is, for us again, a very special one. So it's one that you can fold open. So maybe we can, Hannah, could I ask you to hold it, please? Or you? Yeah, Astrid, you can do it too. So it starts like this. You can just leave it like this for a minute. So it's together. Yeah. So this is the starting point, and then it depicts, and I'll talk about that later, but I'll show it now here. It shows really it was impossible to draw Stockholm actually, because you cannot draw Stockholm without drawing the north of the country either. And it cannot draw Stockholm without its stones that have been so beautifully carved in by the Ice Age. So we didn't stop at Stockholm, and we actually started from the south all the way to the north to Kebnekaise. Am I saying that well? Kiruna is on it, and then all the way to Stockholm, somewhere over here, and then more towards south, even over there. And then you can fold it open. And then, that's exactly the action that I want. And there you see the whole beautiful lake Mälaren. You see the city here. You have the beautiful church of Kiruna over there. You have the ski resort Åre. You have the critical metals over here. And you have the most beautiful stone of Sweden here in the middle. You can just put it down. I'll talk about it again. Thank you so much, Astrid. We have 4 of them, and what I haven't told about the map yet is that this time we glued it like a very old map on textile, and the textile we got from Stadsmissionen, so it is bound to Sweden forever in a way. And also because we wanted to do honor to Britta Marakatlaba, sorry for my pronunciation again, because what's actually on it, on the map, where does it come from? And I have a couple of things that I want to explain. First of all, we try to capture stories. And one of the stories were told by somebody we met while we were visiting the very beautiful stone carvings around Lake Mälaren that you can see on the first picture here. They're incredibly beautiful rock carvings that are somewhere now in the middle of nowhere, close to Lake Mälaren, but actually once in an ice age or even before, I don't know, was at the shore, at the sea side, because the sea came all the way to that place around 3,000 to 5,000 years ago. And somebody was telling us about the Ingwas saga. And of course, I'm not very familiar with it, but it was a person going away on boats, getting knowledge and bringing that knowledge back and share it with the people that he came across and with his homeland. And that's so beautiful, because architects compete, that's for sure. But academics do that too, where knowledge and creativity should always be shared as much as possible. A second thing we visited, and we found a very beautiful story and very beautiful drawings, were the ones of Johan Turi, which we found in the Nordiska Museum. He made very beautiful drawings of the Sami culture, being a Sami himself, which I also refer to in the drawing here. Maybe some of you have on the example little deers on it, and they are referring to that drawing. But also we went to the Moderniska, the Moderna Museet, something like that, where we could see the work of Britta, and I will keep it to her first name, who also made a very beautiful work of what is happening in the north. I mean, if you haven't visited it and you stay till Friday evening, it's even for free. So just go there and have a look on how beautiful she is showing the incredible mining that takes place in the north and what that does with the environment over there. But more about that later. And that is what you can find on the maps, on that area of the map. What if stories are not just tales of the past, but maps that help us navigate the future? And I think that's super important that we think about the past of centuries ago, but also the past as yesterday, and what that all can help us to think about the future as well. A second thing I wanted to add, and I'm looking at the time, I have to stop almost. I'm going to go quickly. Is when we were traveling or being in Stockholm, we took a lot of public transport, of course, because it's super well organized here. And this is one of the advertisements that we would see everywhere. It's like a stone, a rare material, I would say. And then above it, I don't know if this is also saying that, but one of the advertisements would say, we are all responsible for the mining somehow because we all carry a piece of rare metal in our phone or in our laptop or in our, maybe even in my watch, I don't know. We need them for our technology. And in 2023, if I'm not mistaken, here in Sweden, they found a huge mining area where they could have all those rare metals. So Sweden is safe when we think about climate change, because those rare metals are, for example, also in wind turbines and so on. And while I was looking at that advertisements, I was feeling very strange. Am I now also part of that bad mining industry? What could I do? Do I really need a phone? And what if we would all throw them away? Now I was thinking about that. And we were driving towards another opening. It was super packed with people. We had to wait for an opening. Now, we live in the mountains somehow, but for us it was very new to have to wait to enter for an opening. And we went to the famous photographer Lars Sternbjörk, who made very beautiful photos of Sweden between the 50s and the 90s, let's say, and how the whole society transformed actually from being very local into something that, at least this photo is showing, very consumerism, at least for me. And I found it very sad, incredibly sad, actually, those pictures. I saw people, enormous amounts of people in that opening, consuming photos about consumerism. And the saturation of those pictures is 110%. I mean, there's not one pixel that could be more colored than, if you see them in reality, it's much better than here. And those two combined made for us like, whoa, what is actually happening here? And I'm also part of the mining industry, and I go watch pictures that I found super beautiful about people buying stuff in plastic bags. So I was a bit confused, or we were a bit confused over there. And also, we started to feel also after going to the Nordiska Museum and so on about the indigenous, I'll stop. But they took longer too.
It's so bad.
Yeah,
It's so bad.
so I'll take longer too, but I'm almost done. about the indigenous people, and that they're not only they need to be part and ask what they want, it's what they know, what is so important. And it's not knowledge like we know, it's knowledge like we don't know, and that's why it's so important that they take part in any decision that we take, and not just like, oh, let's take an artist because it will add creativity, or let's take a Sami because that is ethically how we should do it now. No, let's take them serious. Let's take everybody at the table even serious. And so moving a church will not do the job. It simply will not. We should engage them much more, even though having a live stream of 2 days of a church moving from one place to another is kind of cool. And then one last thing that I want to add, and then I'll shut up. That's fine. Is the geology of. I mean, rocks are for us coming from the Netherlands. Are very cool. I mean, we only have sand and clay, but here you just have rock, and you cannot dig somehow, and you're safe somehow, and they are so beautiful. Like, I mean, this stone is not from the south of Sweden from last weekend, but it's probably from somewhere up north, brought all the way here during the last ice age, and then broke. Imagine stone. I mean, it was my size, breaking. I found that incredible. And here, maybe with the light, you cannot see it very well, but you see the different types of the different shapes and forms and types of stones. And I don't know anything about it, but what I do know is that I was a bit more fascinating about it than the Daily Suite, that was very fascinated about the critical material coming from the north, and that the fact that Stockholm is here and that we have Lake Malaren and that we have Slussen, which is still safe till 2050 for sure, is because we still have the post-glacial rebound, so that the earth or the stones are still somehow recovering from the ice age, which curved the land like it is now, which made that we could move in the land and so forth. So we should be much more like careful when we touch any stone in Sweden, because they're all so incredibly old and have all been taking part in Stockholm as we are today. I mean, just one small anecdote: when we go to the dog park, it's only a dog park because it's rock and nobody can build on it. I mean, how cool is that as a dog park? So the land itself tells those stories as well. It's not only people, it's also land. And staying and being dependent on the land is the only way to get to know what the people say. I'm going to quit. I'm not going to show this one. I'm just going to move on to this one. So to endure, we must learn to read the world as a living map. Thank you.
Okay, the map will stay here all day. Maris and Remy will stay here all day. So there's a lot of discussion that can happen afterwards. So now we turn to artistic research on biodiversity. We have with us Bernd Helge, program manager at VNS Bildungsakademie, together with the artist Camilla Schomit, but Bernd, you will introduce us to Camilla later. Yeah. Oops, Alyssa? Yeah, we're trying to remove the presentation.
Just close this video.
Just close them.
No, close PowerPoint. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. Watch it here.
Okay, hello. My name is Bernd Helge from Vienna, and I ask you to take your smartphones and scan this code, because this is not a presentation. This is not a pub. It's a museum quiz. First prize, big box of candy, Wien Mannerschnitten. Second prize, and third prize. And it's a quiz about Seestadt Aspern, so maybe Johannes has a bit of an advantage. And also maybe some of the violinists. If you are on it, it will also go through the presentation. So it's question, presentation. So please just answer the questions there, because yeah, I already see there are 31 people in it. And the QR code will stay there, so I can start again. So Wiener Bildungsakademie, we are an education organization based in Vienna, and we work strongly together with the Viennese Social Democratic Party. Yes, you can see here our mayor, one of our latest projects with Liz Gardiner, and yeah, some pictures of our team. Okay, before the first question is not a quiz, it's just that you get used to the app also. And I want to ask you what you know after these 2 years, and also the discussion from today. What comes into your mind when you think of Seestadt in Vienna? Okay, a lot of answers. The lake in the middle is quite nice. As Johannes said, the lake in Seestadt is like the main point, the name-giving point. But it is an urban development area. It is still in development, and it will be in development maybe the next 50 years or even longer. We see Seestadt as I live there, I didn't say that. We see ourselves as part of this big experiment. And so it's still not finished, and it will be in the next years. So now some questions around Seestadt. Please type now your name. Okay, I did not know there is a sound. Maybe you can make it a bit. Okay. No? What's oh, it's coming again. Okay. The sound. Maybe the guy from the museum can make it a bit. So. Maybe also some people on the live stream are joining. I think we can start. 42 is a good answer. And also one tip, you will see the question here and also on your phone, but please scroll a bit down because it always shows the first 3 answers. So sometimes it's 4, 5 or 6 answers. So, okay. So who is this guy? Is it Louis XIV, Kaiser Franz Joseph, Archduke Charles, or Napoleon Bonaparte? So the correct answer is Napoleon. Why do I ask you this? What's the relationship to Seestadt Aspern? Seestadt, in reality, it's called Seestadt Aspern, and Aspern it was a small town which is now a part of Vienna, but it was famous because it was the first battle Napoleon lost. So it's the Battle of Aspern, and so this is also an historical place in this context. And you see here, and everybody who runs knows this is a Strava map, and this is my heat map. And you see here, Seestadt Aspern is in the northeast of Vienna. So, next question. Our leaderboard. So, who is this? Is it Niki Lauda, Sterling Moss, Juan Manuel Fangio, or Jack Brabham? Yeah, it's Sterling Moss, not Niki Lauda. But why? Oh no. Okay. No. Sorry. Okay. Did we have this question? Okay, what is this? Next question, and then there is the answer. Why? So is it this, a weather radar antenna, a wind direction indicator at an airport, a radio tower? Is it an art installation, or is it just a model of an airplane? Yes, most of you are right. This is a wind direction indicator. So now the answer. Okay, now, before Seestadt was built, it was an airfield, as Johannes already told. After the airfield, the airport, closed, it was a racetrack, and here Sterling Moss comes into the game because he won the only one, what would we now call Formula One race. So this was the track. Of course, Niki Lauda and all other famous Austrian Formula One driver, motorsport drivers made races there, but Sterling Moss won it. Okay, it's coming back. And on here, you see how it looked before the construction started. So we have 3 questions, 2 more to go. So it's like 2 questions in one. Okay, you have to look at your device. When did the first people move into Seestadt, and roughly how many people live here today? You have to have both right to get the points. Was it 2010, 2014, 2020, 5,000, 8,000, or around 12,000? Okay, correct is in 2014, the first people moved in, and today 12,000 people are living there. So, and here you see a very short timeline. In 25, the City Council of Vienna approves the Seestadt-Aspern project. In 27, the master plan for the biggest urban development area was completed. Or is it correct? And in 2009, the construction started. And in 2020, I moved in. Okay, the final question. Who said no one has the right to obey? Was it Pipilotta Victualia, Vulgandina, Langstrumpf? Was it Lydia Sicher? Was it Janis Joplin? Or was it Hannah Arendt? Okay, correct answer is Hannah Arendt. But why are all these ladies? All these 4 and much more ladies and women are related to Seestadt-Aspern. In Seestadt-Aspern, all streets, places are named after women. So there's only one street which is not a woman, but this was like before the idea came up, and one street without a relation to a person. But all streets, is it Hannah Arendt, as you see, Gina Massa Amini, Wangari Maathai, Maria Trapp, and also, maybe interesting for the Swedes, there is a Pippi Langstrumpf park in Vienna, in the Seestadt. Okay, this was like just a quiz, and you can Google online. It's much more to Seestadt-Aspern than these 5 questions, but I think you can now, you have an idea of it. This is what I wanted to give you. And also now we come to some seats. So this was the Turning the Tide group 2 years ago in Vienna. And I think now we can go to the leaderboard. It's a bit unfair when 3 Austrians are winning. So I think, FSG, I think is you, Michael, or who is FSG? Ah, sorry, then Northern Wine, Austrian. So, congratulations. And number 2, Astrid, you said you don't want it. Adrian, is it one of our Adrians? No, who is Adrian? Okay, then who is Adam? And I think because we don't have a number 5, I know who will get number 3. Because Malise told the last 3 days, tell me the questions, I want to win this. So this was a short overview on Seestadt Aspern. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you like the Mannerschnitt. And now we go to Camilla Homitz. She stayed for 4 weeks in Seestadt Aspern and made a short film on it, but you will introduce yourself.
Okay. Okay, so I just, I was in Seestadt for 3 or 4 weeks, and my idea was to search the stories related with non-human residents of the city. So I was wondering how the space is actually good for living for the animals and the other organisms. And I made a video, I published this video online on Facebook, and it had quite a lot of views. And also many people from Seestadt later on write to me. There was also people from the organization that it's called Seestadt Grün. So the idea of this initiative is to bring more nature inside of the city. So actually I had this opportunity to go to Vienna during this vacation, and I just record interview with the people from this organization and with some other scientists, and I get another ideas what eventually would be nice to do there in the future. So I just want to present you a video. I made a 10 minutes video, and I hope you will enjoy it. Yeah, it works. 10 minutes. It's 10 minute video. Maria, I don't know, somebody have to press it or up from down? Okay, just so. It's okay.
So Seestadt Aspern is a new district in the edge of Vienna, designed as a model for how cities could grow in the future. It brings together housing, workplaces, and public transport, all built with sustainability and innovation in mind. At the center of the district lies an artificial lake surrounded by a small public park. People come here to walk, swim, meet friends, and enjoy being outside. But the lake also attracts other kinds of visitors: water birds, fish, and many small animals. Over time, I have been more interested in how cities can support biodiversity and what it means to create spaces for non-human life in a places designed for people. When I spent time in Seestadt, that question kept returning. One thing stood out clearly. In the early stage of Seestadt construction, much of the land was covered in concrete and asphalt. The sealed surface is not only increased heat, they also leave a little room for insects and small species to survive. in the short video I shared voices and perspectives from Seestadt, including residents who respond to an earlier video I published online and scientists who study urban biodiversity.
Hello, I'm Tobias Birch, and I'm a member of the initiative Seestadtgrün, initiative who wants to get more nature into Seestadt. We're standing here in the first part of Seestadt, the oldest one, and here we have a lot of areas which got sealed and are actually not used for anything specific. And we as inhabitants thought, hey, this is a problem. We have climate change, the summers are getting hotter and hotter, so we need more nature in Seestadt. So our idea was not to always lamenting about everything, but to get in action, and so we thought we can build some flower beds on some unused areas. Half of the area in Seestadt is green space. This is a really good number for such a densely populated area. But the problem is that this greenland lies maybe nearly around the center and not in the center. And here in the oldest part of Seestadt, there are a lot of plazas and streets which are nearly completely sealed with 99.5 or 0.7% of concrete or asphalt. We have an advantage here because there are near the asphalt, we also have some wassergebundene Decke, which is not so hard as asphalt. And we thought, okay, maybe we can remove this just with hard work and build some flower beds.
The organization Seestadtgrün has already planted wildflower strip on about 400 square meters. But according to Tobias, in this part of Seestadt, there's potential for up to 8,000 square meters more. These plants need watering for the first 2 years, but after that, they grow on their own and only need to be cut once a year. Compared to other forms of urban greenery that require costly irrigation systems, this is simple, low-cost and long-lasting solution. It also helps protect native plant species and support the return of wild bees into the urban environment. Tobias notes that under growing pressure from residents, the city has also started removing concrete in some areas.
And we also see that with the development of Seestadt, you see in which year which district was built. So here in the first, it is quite sealed, and the newer ones, they are completely different. If you walk there, you don't see any concrete, there are always stones. And so we can say, hey, there is some learning, but it doesn't help us, the inhabitants of the first district, if the newer ones are better, because yeah, if you do it, has been done wrong in the beginning, so it has to be fixed in some way.
Community engagement in Seestadt is also visible in social gardens that can support insects and animal diversity. At one such a garden, I saw more than 10 different bee species in a single flower in just 30 minutes. Andy, who studies insect diversity inside and around the city, also highlighted the importance of the flowering plants within urban areas.
Here in Seestadt, I am because of my work. We have this project where we do monitoring here in Seestadt. We are focusing on 3 different insect groups, which are the grasshoppers, butterflies, and I do wild bees with special focus on bumblebees. The idea of the monitoring is comparing what I found here in the city and in the Aspaner Terrassen. I already can say that biodiversity is higher in the Aspaner Terrassen because there are much more flowers, but here in the city they mow the lawn quite often, which is not so good for insects and especially for bumblebees.
Dominika Zimmermann is entomologist and author of a book about insects based in Vienna. She tells me about the remarkable variety of wild bees found across the city, and she reminds me that this richness is also responsibility.
It's hard to believe, but there are around 550 species of wild bees that have been recorded from Vienna, from the capital, I mean, from a city, which is crazy. So this is more than in some entire countries.
Vienna, like many cities, is a patchwork of green spaces that can support biodiversity. But one thing made Vienna unique.
I mean, what is really specific for Vienna is also the climatic gradient. So in the east, it's very dry and warm, while in the west, we have the forest. It's much cooler, it's distinctly cooler and moister. So that, I mean, in spring, we've got about 1 week difference in the when some plants start to bloom in the west and in the east. So it's really a huge difference in the climate, which of course then also, as a result, in these habitats, different species can occur or live. But of course, the east is much more species diverse with the Pannonian influence, so the Pannonic climate, which is kind of a warm and dry.
In Vienna, many places have been identified by entomologists as insect biodiversity hotspots. One of them is Asper Nord, located right next to the Seestadt station. I visited this area with a brilliant young entomologist, Jonathan Schwartz, and ecologist Jasmine Hackl, where we saw some amazing bee species, including the spectacular Lythurgus cornutus. But this richness comes with responsibility. Urban expansion can put insect habitat at risk. As cities grow, insects often lose the space they need to live. That's why it is important to plan urban spaces with biodiversity in mind, and to ensure that future city development supports rather than destroys ecological richness. In the case of insects, this is entirely possible. Studies have shown that the urban environment can actually support pollinators' population when the right conditions are created. One idea that came to me while thinking about Seestadt is the city of insects. A small installation I could build together with local residents. It hasn't been realized yet, but maybe someday. It could be built from sand, clay, stones, and wood, materials that create nesting spaces for wild bees and other pollinators. These hotels would resemble the shape of nearby apartments building, but built on insect scale. A symbolic image to highlight our shared space. Through this installation, I could raise awareness that around 70% of wild bee species and many other pollinators nest directly in the ground. Sealed surfaces like concrete and asphalt make cities hotter and speed up climate change. They also stop insects from reaching the soil to build their nest and block water from getting into the ground, where trees and plants need it. That is why we need more biologically active surface in our cities.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Camila. Three things to say. First of all, I'm sorry for the light square here. Who would imagine in October that it would be sunny? I'm sorry. But let's be happy about it. Can I steal your short break because we are running a bit late? But then I will give you a few minutes for the longer one, I promise, with a coffee. Is that okay? Yes and no, I know. Okay, so I'm gonna continue with that. So we have the honor to have with us Her Excellency Ekaterini Foudoulaki, the Greek ambassador in Sweden, and I would like to invite her for a few words. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, and I'm terribly sorry. I'm not responsible for stealing your short break.
No.
But anyway, I will be very short myself. And let me start by saying that I'm truly honored to be with you here today, to this powerful lab for change. Drawing inspiration from my country, Greece, whose civilization was founded on the very idea that a flourishing society is intrinsically linked to the beauty and harmony of its surroundings. So, climate change, unsustainable urban growth, this is an undeniable fact that we are faced with today. But as artists, you know that the most powerful solutions often come not from policy papers, but from a shift in perspective, a change of heart, mind, and spirit. So, my message today is the message that ancient Greece is transferring. The ancient Greek spirit offers us a blueprint for a sustainable future. It's an invitation to see the natural world not as a resource to be exploited, but as a work of art to be protected. So, very briefly, three, in my view, powerful examples to inspire art and action. First of all, the power of physis, nature, physis in Greek, nature, and nomos, human law, culture. So, ancient Greeks did not see nature as separate. They saw a whole interconnected cosmos. And in this respect, it is the Greek mythology that some of you, I'm sure, are very familiar with, that is full of environmental ethics. For example, there are several myths, but one very particular, the myth of Erysichthon, who was a king in ancient Thessaly, and he wanted to build a magnificent palace, and he ordered all the trees in the sacred grove of goddess Demeter to be cut down. So the goddess Demeter, who was the goddess of Mother Earth, the goddess of harvest and agriculture and crops, became very angry, of course. And that way, when Erysichthon cut down a sacred oak tree, that was it. She became so angry, and there was a curse. One of the nymphs in the forest was dead because of that, and there was a curse on Erysichthon. And which curse was, in fact, to place Erysichthon in a constant state of hunger. That is, food acted like fuel on a fire with him. The more he ate, the hungrier he got. So he sold his possessions to buy food, but he was still angry. He even sold his own daughter, and he was always hungry. He couldn't get out of the curse, and eventually Erysichthon ate himself in hunger. Nothing of him remained. So, as a powerful artistic metaphor, this is a warning against the endless, unsustainable appetite that drives modern consumption. Nature is sacred, not merely transactional. A second example that I would like to present and has to do with urban planning, again, coming from ancient Greece. You know, ancient Greeks were also brilliant city planners. In cities like Olynthus, for example, Olynthus is in present-day Halkidiki. Some of you may have already visited this area in the northern part of Greece. So already in the 5th century BC, Courtyard houses were built facing south to capture winter sun for heat and block the intense summer sun at the same time. So this is a passive solar design, an early form of energy efficiency. Even more, the Minoans, again, some of you may be familiar with this civilization, ancient civilization at the island of Crete and in Knossos in particular, which was Europe's oldest urban center at the time. So Knossos had a very sophisticated drainage and water recycling system thousands of years ago. They understood the value of every drop. So our modern urban art projects can emphasize this ingenuity, using recycled materials, promoting passive design, and accounting for the scarcity of water. And last example I would like to present to you has to do with art as a civic duty, which used to be called liturgia in the ancient times. So in ancient Athens, wealthy citizens often funded public services and cultural events. This was called a liturgia, a public work. This wasn't just charity, it was a civic obligation to the community. One of the most expensive liturgias was the sponsorship nowadays. So chorigia in ancient Greece. The sponsor undertook to fund the tragedies, for example, and comedies that completed public celebrations at the time and so on. And it was a great honor to offer the sponsorship because of the public recognition that was attached to it. So today, we need to view climate action and urban sustainability not just as a government task, but as a modern liturgia as well. We need your art to become a public work, drawing citizens together to sponsor, for example, a tree, to clean a river or reclaim a public square. Now, with these three examples, I wanted to maybe offer some inspiration from Greek art and civilization. And the ultimate goal, of course, is to use art to restore the ancient reverence for Gaia, Yi, Mother Earth. Artists' creations can be the spark that helps our citizens feel that ancient deep kinship with the natural world. Artists have always been the true architects of culture. So, guided by the enduring light of Greek civilizations, artists can inspire us to a new, beautiful, and sustainable chapter for our citizens, cities, and our planet. So, with this, I finish my small remarks to you. Warm congratulations to the countries participating in Creative Europe project. And to the organizers and the WRAC Museum for hosting the event, and to all participating artists, of course, for their contribution in turning the tide. Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ. Thank you so much. So to continue in the same theme with Greece, and focusing on post-fire recovery and youth participation, I would like to invite Valia Albani, curator at Artit in Greece, who will also present later Frosso Papadimitriou, the artist that worked in Greece. So Valia, welcome.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. I also promise to be brief, so we can all have our break actually. Thank you, Hannah. So, hello everyone, I'm Valia Pani, I'm the community manager of Artit and also the local curator for Greece for Turning the Tide. Last May, we hosted the ICHNI International Lab, the Turning the Tide International Lab in Evia. But to give you some context on what exactly happened and to be able to understand how we shaped the lab, I think it's worth saying a few words about Artit first. So Artit is a digital platform that is committed to connecting artists with opportunities worldwide. But additionally, we also curate and participate in projects that connect artistic practice with social and environmental realities. We aim to build a bridge between culture, creativity, and research, and this is what we think we did also in Evia. So last May, we hosted the ICHNI International Lab. ICHNI is the Greek word for traces, and we decided to use this word because traces is what were left after the extreme wildfires and following floods that happened in the region in 2021. So there was a 3-day event of conversations around this topic and around themes of resilience and how the land and the people understood what happened. But before that, before the public program, there was also a residency of 4 international artists that stayed in a month in the region. I was also there, and also Dear Hunter were there. And the main question that we asked ourselves is how can art help us process and heal and also adapt in the face of overlapping crisis. And to begin answering this question, we had to start by listening to the landscape and listening to the people. And these are just a few pictures of what happened during the residency. I wish we had more time, but what I can share with you is that we went there and we had no idea how the people would react to us being there, but they were extremely warm and extremely kind with us, and they saw art as a tool to share and to be heard and to make a change. So this is just so I can navigate you a little bit. In the top left, you can see a picture of the team of artists and me. In the 4th Museum of Prokopi. This is a great initiative because it's a volunteer-run museum, run completely by volunteer firefighters in the region that were there during of course, the wildfires and still are trying to make a change and to prevent this catastrophe from happening again. This is also some pictures from the 3-day program, from the conversations and from the artistic presentations. And here, sorry, there was another slide, but maybe I skipped it, but it's okay. You can see the full list of participating artists in the Turning the Tide website, and we can, of course, discuss more if you want. But what I wanted to also point out is that in this round, we decided to blend local and international labs. This means that we had 2 local artists working alongside our international artists, and this was very interesting because there was a blend of different perspectives, people who were already familiar with the region and people who hadn't seen or didn't have any context on what was happening in Evia. Here is a slide with the participating artists. You can see the names. And also we had 2 supporting artists from the region that actually saw the project. They were very interested in participating, so we had them with us. It's Omeros and Yannis Koulouridis. We're also very thankful for them as well. And to briefly also present the work of Froso Papadimitriou, whom you'll hear from in just a second. Froso did a brilliant project. This is the Golden Pine Cone. It was basically a contemporary tale that was constructed by collecting testimonials from the local people in Evia. I think it's very powerful because Froso shows us that in the simplest ways we can say the hardest truths, and I'm sure that she will say a few more things about this in the next moments. And also she created this lovely artwork as well with the children of the villages of Evia, with the participation of the children. And I just want to end this presentation with a quote by Olivia Lane from Funny Weather, Art in an Emergency. Art is a form of resistance and repair, an antidote to the chaos and destructiveness of our times. This is a picture that was actually taken in Evia during a field trip. You can see the blooming poppies alongside the fire landscape, and I think it's very powerful, and it, in my opinion, shows exactly what we're trying to do here, to heal through art and to see how the next day can look like. So with that being said, I will hand it over to Frosso so she can tell a bit more about her practice. Thank you very much.
Okay, and do I need the microphone? No, yes. Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. Really nice to see you all here. I'm going to apologize, I'm going to have to read because me talking and time limit never worked out. So it's going to be, so I'm just going to try and organize myself. So my name is Frosso Papadimitriou. I'm a practicing artist and a designer. I'm based between UK and Greece. I'm also a guest lecturer at the Royal College of Art for the postgraduate program of environmental architecture. And part of my work is to conduct field research in different areas in Greece. And that's actually what brought me initially to Evia, and in particularly Northern Evia. That's what is my main focus that then came in the residency. So this is Evia. This is where we were in the northern part of that. As the theme of the residency was the water element, I started looking into the devastating floods that occurred in the island, and in particular the flood of October 2021, which affected mainly the northern part of the island. But very, very quickly, I had to go against the flow and up to the mountains, as the flooding was a direct outcome of the colossal fire that took place that August that year. It erased almost 500 million square meters of pine forest, to understand 70,000 football pitches or 1.5 Stockholms. Earlier that year, in February 2021, the storm Media had already hit Evia and caused heavy damage to the forest, villages, and the agriculture. The fire that followed the summer cleared almost entirely the forest, leaving the mountaintops bare. When the heavy rain fell in October that year, it found no resistance, and the water terraformed the land by stripping bare fertile areas and corroding the coastal line. In this chain of events, what really struck me was the permanency of change the fire brought to the landscape and the community. The livelihoods of the communities on the mountain were irreversibly affected. Talking to the residents in the coastal town of Limni, I could also see that instilled in them was the fear of flood with every heavy rain. Since 2021, there has been a series of flooding in the area. While I was in the area previously, I had a discussion with the Raisin Tapers Union, who told me how over 11 days they saw their future turning literally into ashes. The Evia resin collection is, or probably was now, the largest in Greece, and one of the few trades which works in tandem with the nature, not destroying the nature. The pine trees required at least 35 years to grow and reach peak point for resin collection, and therefore this current generation of resin collectors could actually be the very last, as the trade passes from generation to generation. The permanency of change in such a short time frame made me wonder how much more local natural knowledge was lost to younger generations as a result, and whether that knowledge is actually useful and important to preserve. I decided to work with 3 villages that were affected by all 3 phenomena. So Kurkuli village is a small village on the Xiro mountain with an aging population, and due damage during the snowstorms, was also almost burned by fire, was cut off from food supply and electricity for days due to the floods, and the main source of income is the forest. Skepasti, a village a bit lower in altitude, younger demographic, mainly families with young children. The fire affected the majority of the population. The main source of income is the forest. Kehries, a village at the foot of the Xiro mountain with a larger population, more equally divided in age groups, agriculture and beekeeping affected by the floods. The main source of income is not dependent on the forest, and a small portion of the forest was actually managed to preserve. The first location I visited was Kurkuli. My main contact, Maria Yerakari, which I owe her a lot, arranged a meeting with the local community at the village cafe, or actually, truly, I just invaded the cafe in a rush hour. So I managed to cut like 50 to 20 people and talk with them. Unfortunately, this is the only documentation I have from all of my encounter with the people from the different villages, because I hadn't had established yet the connection and the familiarity to start taking pictures. I was there to hear them, talk to them, and make them feel comfortable. So, it was a compelling experience hearing them talk and recalling images of the destruction they witnessed and how they fought against what was going on with fear of their own lives. Anger, hopelessness, distrust, division, sadness, and a collective trauma that was actually rooted at the failure of a state to protect them and actually support them on the aftermath. They, however, made me feel very welcome and participated in a dialogue for over 6 hours. Coffees went to beer very fast. The cafe had a good day that day. But unfortunately, that was not all fun. And things got heated at times, ending with a quarrel between the mayor and one of the resin collectors. In Skepasti, I mainly met with members of the Resin Tapers Union. There was a very different climate, as the union managed to stand together and force the government to create new paid positions for forest clearance and protection for all affected resin collectors, instead of the government giving it out to private companies. Although there was a more hopeful and feisty atmosphere, same feeling of injustice, exhaustion, and fear for the future underline all their words. In Kehries, I managed to meet locals in the cafe. As you see, I'm just invading their spaces. I cut them after an Easter church mass. This time, the demographic was mainly women, mothers, sisters, aunties, that they were there. They explained to me that although the forest isn't the primary source of income in the area, the sentence of its loss was affecting everybody, because the forest was part of their everyday life and their local identity. While talking about natural knowledge, they had many fond memories of grandmothers and great-grandmothers collecting herbs from the forest, mushroom picking, and so on. But unfortunately, since the knowledge is just passed down from generation to generation, is not recorded, it was actually painful to see the realizations that they could no longer relay that to their children. They described to me how the children were asking why this has happened, and how parents were actually unable to find the words to explain it. It was an emotional moment for them, recalling some of the responses from the children during and after the events. Around the area, there are still signs with the date of the fire and taglines that they say, "I will never forget." They told me that as a response to what happened, the kids had taken to themselves to protect the remaining forest by clearing it and by telling off anybody who would litter the forest. It wasn't just knowledge that was lost, it was a way of life. At that point, I decided to speak with the children. I wanted to understand their perspective. How did they interpret what happened, and what were their thoughts 4 years after? With the help of Maria Gherakari and Teresa Closotira, which again I owe a lot, I organized 4 different children's art workshops, 2 in Curculus and 2 in Kechries, as the kids from Skepasti, they go to school in Kechries as well. They don't have a school. There is only one school in the area. So during the workshops, I asked the children to draw for me their most fond memory of the forest. While the children were drawing, we started talking about the forest, what happened there, their future plans, and how they spent their time in nature. It was beautiful and yet sad to see how these kids are so naturally connected from the beginning with nature, and how this is actually educated out of them when they grow up. When I asked them about the future plans, the response was that although it was very sad to them to leave nature and that they would miss it so much, they would have to move to the cities to find opportunities for work. In their drawings, I could clearly see the trauma and confusion from what they witnessed. Although these are their most fond memories of the forest, you can actually see the elements of what they've experienced. This drawing was made by Konstantina, 7 years old. When the fire broke out, Konstantina was 3 years old. She actually told me that she had no memory of the forest before the fire. So that was the only thing she could draw. In the second workshop, I asked the children to paint on one canvas on which I had drawn images of nature with white threads. It was almost like find the image game. And it was a game. The idea of the workshop wasn't to make something, it was actually to play and talk, to get the children talking about nature. Many children spoke about what happened, the future, and the new trees that they saw growing. Children have all the time in the world to wait for a forest to grow. They can actually turn a barren cemetery, burnt and trees, as a playground. But what happened though is that there was a recurrent question they had. How are we incapable to protect something that is so dear and important to us? What happened to Northern Evia is a timeline of events displaying a stark view of how political negligence, opportunistic economics, administrative failure, and lack of climate knowledge converge to turn a series of natural disasters into a devastation. While climate change is typically framed in terms of atmospheric shifts, natural disasters, it also has an underlying intrinsic economical and political character, especially in how climate change is used and applied. I am not going to make it. I'm going to steal your break. I'm just telling you now. That's it. So
They're going to blame me. No, no.
I'm sorry. Your break is mine. So just continue. I'm not going to take that long, but I'm going to need a couple of minutes more. The storm that winter broke many trees, which closed down passages in the forest. Due to legislation, the forest couldn't be cleared fast enough, despite people warning, creating a fire hazard. That summer, Greece had a heat wave. However, the majority of the people in northern area were adamant that the fire was intentional. Even older children witnessed random fire combustions happening simultaneously in different locations. Most terrifying was the state's lack of support. Northern Evia was burning for 11 days, from one side of the island to the other. I saw videos on people's phones where the fire brigade stood idly by while locals are using hoses from their houses to actually fight the fire. The state's concern was only to avoid having victims, but protecting the forest was actually of no interest, it seems like, and even though there was time for it. According to newspapers and local testimonies, you know what's going on?
It will come.
Yeah.
It will come.
Okay. Yeah. and a documentary of El Psaru at Northern Evia, Plan A or B. Soon after, a private association, in collaboration with the company, presented the development plan of the area, including luxury hotels, remote working hubs, renewable energy parks. Obviously, the plan was postponed due to local outrage, but rumors have it that it might start from next year. The floods were the final blow to the area. Again, despite local warnings for the flood prevention measures, they took too long and the water caused irreparable damage and losses to the remaining population of the area that was actually not so much affected by the fire. The state made it nearly impossible for the local unions to be contracted to clear and restore the forest while giving out contracts to private companies. In 2027, the union's contracts will actually terminate with the possibility of not being renewed. The state labeled the incident as climate change and used it in their campaigns for renewable energy and new developments. For me, it became clear that the work I needed to do was that of a narrator rather than a protagonist. There was a story that needed to be told to heal and prevent such future outcomes. A story that reminded people how ephemeral our lives are, and even when everything fails, by being united, we can achieve shared goals. It was a story that the adults couldn't find the words to tell it to their children, and the children didn't have the understanding of the world to tell it to their parents. I wanted to create this bridge not to instill a responsibility to the children for their future, but to prompt them to ask the adults difficult questions that can only answer with actions and not words. I focused on staying in the background, note-taking, and creating a calm yet empowering environment where the voices of the people were heard but not dissected. I used their descriptive phrases verbatim throughout the story, so that the Golden Pine Cone actually is a place where it's truly composed by their voices, and they can find themselves in that work. I constructed a fairy tale not to escape reality, but rather as a way to reframe it. Knowledge manifests in different forms, and through time it has traveled further by parables, stories, and folklore, enduring moral and environmental insights in symbolic forms. This is especially true for children, as the tales become the bridge to the world they inherit from their parents. We use tales and metaphors to simplify and describe the complex environments we live in, and by being positioned as the audience, we are then able to reflect on ourselves. Once the book was ready, and I'm just finishing.
So we need to finish, yes.
I'm just gonna, so this, because this is the success of that project, and I want to talk about that. I went back, and actually, I showed it to the people because the worth of this project is their reaction, their feedback to what I've done. So there was very positive reception, and they asked me to provide copies. So we managed to actually print 5 copies for each village, that they were distributed in cafes, the union, the school, and the library, and so on. So the book actually is there with the people. And the Cultural Association of Cacriès requested me to print, if I could, to print a book for each child in the school. Actually, their funding is not enough for the printing, so we're looking for funding to do that, actually, to print the book, and maybe a small publishing house that might actually want to undertake that. And I was invited to do some school readings and maybe a puppet show with a local artist. So this project actually still has some space to grow. So watch this space and come and see the book tomorrow at the fair. Thank you very much, and sorry for taking your break. Sorry.
Exactly to my point, I would just like to say and note that tomorrow we have an art fair at Kulturhuset Foyer 3, So you will see all the artists today and even more, 15 artists there exhibiting what they have done for Turning the Tide. So you're all welcome there. We start at 11, finish at 1, and then it's going to be the conference part after 1. And Hannah, I need your help with the next presentation. Our next session, and last before coffee, we have more after, but I promise. It looks at engagement in the Baltic Sea with examples from Gdansk. I would like to welcome Natalia Svizan. Natalia was supposed to be here with the artist Bartosz Szyniak, but unfortunately he couldn't be with us today. So Natalia will say a few words about his work too. Thank you, Natalia.
Thanks. Hello, I'm Natalia Zvon from the Urban Cultural Institute. And sorry, I forgot that. Okay, and I would like to tell you briefly about one particular place in Gdańsk that is, it's one place, but it has a potential of becoming a starting point for many new spaces and many projects and artistic initiatives in the city of Gdańsk. We, as the Urban Culture Institute, also discovered it and use it for actually Turning the Tide residency. It's called Grid Art Hub, and it's a newly opened independent creative space located in the heart of the Gdańsk shipyard area. Gdańsk shipyard area is a very lively place, but this particular initiative was only opened at the end of June this year. It aims at being a year-round third space for artists and for creative sector, as well as inhabitants of Gdańsk and visitors from outside. It is designed as a space for artistic, cultural, and creative practices. There's a common table for discussions and for meals. It has artistic studios and residencies. It has communal areas and a very rich program of events. It also presents art. The space occupies over 1,000 square meters and has 9 permanent studios and 3 residency spaces managed in cooperation with the city of Gdańsk and for emerging artists, and the Academy of Fine Arts in Gdańsk for students and creative initiatives. Yeah. Some more art in the space. As the City Culture Institute or Urban Culture Institute, we also decided to collaborate with a Grid Art Hub and organized a showcase of an artistic work of our Turning the Tide local artist Linda Lemon. And the project talked about the problem of ghost nets in the Baltic Sea. The artist created 2 swings woven from recovered fishing nets. They were hung in the grid space to arrange a temporary relaxation zone and were very popular. And then the showcase was also accompanied by a basket weaving workshop using salvaged nets. And the second space that I want to tell you about is called Huba. And Huba in English, oh, something happened here. Huba is a polypore, which is like a mushroom that grows on trees. Okay, so Huba is a center for ecological education and circular economy experimentation. It is actually organized within the Grid Art Hub. It's connected together, and it functions as a living laboratory, a green community-oriented space for workshops and educational activities. For example, they aim to compost bio waste from the restaurants that are nearby, and our delegation actually visited those restaurants. They organize different ecological workshops and promote circular design and eco systems. So I highly recommend to visit those places because they are like what Gdańsk, what the new, modern and young Gdańsk is all about now. And now I want to tell you about Bartosz, just a few words because he's a great artist, was also our artist in residency in Gdańsk within the Turning the Tide project. And sadly, he couldn't come today. He himself got into hospital today. So I would like to say very sorry in his name. And I want to tell you about this person because it's a great person who works a lot with children and with the community of Nowy Port, Newport, a water-based district in Gdańsk. And during his Turning the Tide residency, Bartosz developed a research-based and community-oriented artistic project called Baltic Memory. And he led a study visit to the seal sanctuary in Hell for school children from Nowy Port district. And they also had this educational workshop where they drew or sketched different sea creatures and learned about marine biodiversity and generally deepened their ecological awareness of the Baltic Sea. And the participant created postcards for the Baltic Sea, which was like their poetic message to nature. And it was a really beautiful tool to build this awareness and connection between these children and art. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, not this one.
Thank you so much, Natalia. And now we have more. No, we don't. Now it's time for the break, and we have a half an hour, and I'll give you 2 more minutes, I promise. 32 minutes, a coffee break. Thank you so much. We have many seats on the front row, so you can come in front if you would like. After our break, we hear about good practices in social engagement from Scotland. I would like to welcome Dr. Liz Gardiner, cultural planner at Fable Vision. Hello.
Hello, hello, and thank you very much. And welcome back after that well-earned break. I think we did earn that break, didn't we?
Yes.
So, yes, I'm from Scotland, and I wanted to use my 15 minutes to share with you some of the impacts that working with Turning the Tide is happening in Scotland. Because you may or may not know that Scotland was dragged out of the European Union by Brexit, and it's now extremely important on all sorts of levels that we remain involved in projects like Turning the Tide, Creative Europe funded projects. And what we are doing in Scotland is using the involvement in Creative Europe and in Turning the Tide to lever funding and prestige at home for the arguments that the artists are making here. Socially engaged artists tackling climate change. We in Scotland have been working in the field of socially engaged practice for decades. We are quite internationally known, so it's almost taken for granted that the quality of the art will be very high. And it's kind of what we do next, those acupuncture points that happen when socially engaged artists are working in community contexts, engaging with people, inspiring conversations. What then happens after the acupuncture point has been delivered? What then can unfold? And my sense is that it's up to us as the partners in the project to be the ones who make sure that those relationships are developed ongoingly with politicians, with planners, with architects and urban designers, with anybody who's involved in the conversations about climate change, and with academia. So with Creative Scotland funding, we have spread our reach across Scotland, and we've got 3 particular areas, one in Govan near Glasgow, one in Renfrewshire, and one in Dumfries in Galloway, where we've been working. We were lucky to be able to host the Climate Summit in Glasgow, which kicked off the Turning the Tide project. And during that summit, we introduced the 3 areas that we were going to be working in. We went to visit Govan, we went to visit Dumfries. We didn't manage to visit Renfrewshire, but we heard about it during the presentations during the summit. In Govan, we uncovered the story of the Govan graving docks and the struggle to maintain a public ownership of the docks, or to retain public ownership of the docks, and the local activists who are working there. We went on a field trip to Dumfries, and we heard about the problems of the flooding of the River Nith, where the showman community have their fairgrounds on the banks of the Nith, and how they are displaced when those floods happen, and how it's actually the local authority that their flood planning has actually caused the problems for the show people. And we hosted, for Turning the Tide, 3 learning webinars in conjunction with UWS, the University of the West of Scotland, with the Climate for Culture in Scotland, which is the national body that looks at the role of artists in changing narratives around climate change. They used to be called Creative Carbon Scotland. And the Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen. So the role of those other bodies, the academics and the national body for climate change, as well as local networks and local climate action groups. Those groups we involved in the project right from the outset in order to try and maximise the impact. So we've had embedded artist residencies in those Scottish regions of Govan and Dumfries and Renfrewshire, but we haven't initiated new programmes. What we've tried to do is work with artists like Jamie Wardrop, for example, in Renfrewshire, who are already working in the area of both engagement with communities and in narratives around climate change, to enhance what they're already doing, to raise the profile of what they're already doing, and to make introductions between those artists and their local authorities, their planning departments, to try and maximise the impact. We had, because of the good fortunes of our engagement and involvement with Turning the Tide, we were able to send artists, one to Gdansk, Robin Wilson, who worked with activists and scientists in the area of climate change in Gdansk, and made a film, which when she came back, she used to great effect. And then Joe Hodges and Robbie Coleman, who came from Dumfries and Galloway, that's a more rural area, and we deliberately chose artists in a rural area to go to Evia in Greece, because we knew that there would be synergies there, and indeed it transpired. And both residencies sparked community engagement on their return. Robin, her film, the film that she made, was shown at the local urban labs in Govan and in Renfrewshire, sparking debate there. We had an involvement in Govan with an artist and architect who have developed a blog site looking at the rights of rivers. And that's been a really important engagement for us in terms of understanding the UN Declaration of the Rights of Rivers and incorporating that into our thinking. Robin herself, on her return, was actually diagnosed with a brain tumour. And she has used that experience to go digital and to make the links between climate change and what's happening in our bodies, and decrying the extractivist greed and the way that we are using and abusing the planet, and like that Greek myth, imploding in our own bodies at the end of the day. So we hosted film screenings, mapping and planning dialogues in both Govan and in Renfrewshire. In Govan, we worked with local artists, 16 Nicholson Street, an artists cooperative, who were doing a project engaging communities around the Govan graving docks, and they've produced a really exciting artwork, which is now incorporated in the Turning the Tide digital exhibition. And from their point of view, the involvement in Turning the Tide was so impactful that they've now achieved 3-year funding status from Creative Scotland, which is really quite extraordinary. So it really has made a difference for them. Plus, we've had all the engagement with the local authority and the planning departments. That has happened as a result of Turning the Tide. That's their atlas that they have produced as a result. In Renfrewshire, we worked with the local Climate Action Network and the Artists Network, Creative Renfrewshire, which is a network of artists and arts organisations in Renfrewshire. And we worked with the University of the West of Scotland. We brought them all together in a very exciting local event where we spent the day exploring ideas and the impact of artists in climate change. And as a result of that, we've managed, the chair of the local authority was present in the workshop. She invited us now to a sort of ongoing dialogue with the planning department. So we've now got UWS involved, we've got the Creative Renfrewshire represented, and we're having an ongoing dialogue with the planning department because they're really interested in looking at how artists can impact in climate change and how we can involve artists in some of the stalled spaces and empty buildings which are prevalent around Renfrewshire. Joe Hodges and Robbie Coleman, they were the artists from Dumfries who went to Evia in Greece, and we worked very closely with the Stove Network in Renfrewshire, so in Dumfries and Galloway. So they're like the equivalent of the Creative Renfrewshire in Renfrewshire, the Artists Network. And again, they've come back from their work in Evia, sharing the stories of the fire, sharing their practice, the 6 Bowls project that came out of it, telling the stories of the fire, and realising the synergies that are there in Dumfries, between Evia and Dumfries. One of the Valia talked about engagement with local artists, and they actually involved one of the local artists in their project. So all the photographs that they used were from a local artist who had documented the fire. We haven't actually had the follow-up events from that project yet in Dumfries and Galloway. That's an ongoing discussion. We're raising the funds for that now. We're talking with Dumfries and Galloway Council, and that will happen, we're quite sure, because we've worked in conjunction with those networks, with the university. The university works in Dumfries and Galloway as well as Renfrewshire and Govan. So we've worked with those groupings to make sure from the outset that there will be maximum impact from those acupuncture point interventions. Those are the campfire tales from Robbie and Joe as well, and that's us with the Stove in Dumfries and Galloway. So the rights of rivers now core to the theme of River Cities Network. We've got new funding bids going forward. There's a digital exhibition launching in Turning the Tide in the autumn, and our artists will all be involved in that, both the local and the international ones. So I don't know if it's a model of good practice, but it's certainly a model of socially engaged practice and how we can use those events and artistic interventions to engage closely with local authorities and planners ongoingly in a way that actually makes a difference in the longer term. Thank you.
Oops. Oh, it's loud, sorry. Thank you, Liz. Hannah, I might need your help a little bit. So now it is time to introduce me. As I told you, I'm Elisabeth Opeyoriou, and I'm working as an international coordinator and curator of Intercult and the project Turning the Tide. And after traveling around the world earlier, or around Europe earlier. I will bring us back to Sweden now, and I will say a few words about us. So who are we? You can see us around. I'm Elisa, this is Hannah, we have Ivona, we have Martina, we have Jean, we have Karin. Jean is somewhere down, I think. Our motto is culture makes the difference. Intercult is a cultural organization. We're based in Södermalm, and we are working in the intersection of art, culture, and society. And what we want, or what we aim, and what we're doing is to connect Swedish artists with communities and international and European networks. So we want to bring Sweden abroad, but we want to bring also all international people in Sweden. This is how we do it, and this is what we're doing today. So we have several themes that we've been working with. The recent years, it's always international collaboration, obviously, but the recent years are sustainability, it's digital tools in arts, and of course it's supporting artists, always supporting artists. So for Turning the Tide, as Ivona said in the beginning of the day, we are the leaders of this project, but we are also representing Sweden, and we are leading the Swedish part of the project. So let's go to see what is our focus. Of course, it's Stockholm's waterfront. We're speaking about water and climate, and it's all about how nature meets urban cities. And also we picked, let's say, a focus point, and this is Slussen, as you can see here, which is in the middle of the city. It's an intersection of everything. And it's also a meeting point, a passing by point, and again, of course, it has the floodgates that were mentioned earlier that separate salty Baltic Sea with sweet drinking water Lake Mälaren. So this is what we were doing during those 2 years until now, and our point is to bring together, as we are doing today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, artists, scientists, policymakers, and citizens, and just to think of how can creativity reshape our relationship with water and climate. Why do we do that? Because we feel like the art can help with climate engagement. Art can be the catalyst. Through the art, we can make the personal, we can make everything personal and emotional and accessible. So climate change can really touch upon us and understand what we want to do in the future. So we want to turn public spaces into sites for climate dialogue, and we want to transfer spectators into active participants and create shared experience, because this is what it stays after, and this is what we think afterwards. I would like to introduce you to my children, Amelia and Konstantinos is there, watching Tinas Eskilsson, our local artist, Magic Water Drop. And of course, we have ongoing realities here, Maria Andrea Pitai and Vladi, that I'm going to speak later about them. So our focus is collaboration again and again. And we see how the international dimension of its project inspires people also locally. And when our communities see what is happening in Austria, in Poland, in Greece, in Scotland, it opens new possibilities, it strengthens relations and solidarity. And this is what we want to do. So as Ivona said, we have 42 artists involved in this 3-year-old project, and us at Intercult are welcoming and engaging 10 artists. 2 of those artists went international, and we have Katarzyna Piorek. I hope that I pronounced it correctly. She is based in Sweden. She's Polish, but she's based in Sweden many, many years, and she went to Gdansk, and this is her presentation on after her international residency, focused on water and the relationship that we have with water and the symbolism, and creating video art installations at CCI. And then we have Zoe Latidis. She is a dance artist and a mime artist, and she made a beautiful performance on the river, on the water of Evia. Well, she actually expressed all the trauma that all the people of Evia experienced. And now we're going to our local artists. We have Tina Eskilsson. Tina is making art installations, and she's focusing on connection with the water. We have Ongoing Realities, a duo that is performing as duo. They're also working with technology, and they made a wonderful performance at Vattentorget in Slussen when it was just opened around summer 2024. Maria Andrea Robitaille, she has also a big performance tomorrow, you shouldn't miss it. That integrates circus artists with sustainable practice. She's also a researcher. Ludmila Kristesova, which makes really catchy, let's say, she made a really catchy Instagram, let's say, video. And she's engaging community in very collaborative but also very creative ways. We have Vladi, that he has worked with artistic urban acupuncture. You can see his work also. I will say more about that. Small details in the city, very wonderful small installations that affects people and create thoughts, let's say, change behaviors maybe. And Aya, who is also focusing on youth and mural art, where she worked together with local young groups of people creating local and creating murals and inviting people to think and paint together. Right now, we have the Swedish artists in residencies, Jonna Bolamers and Agnieszka Sobierska. They are actually showcasing their work at Stockholm this Friday at 7, entrance E. You're all welcome. So they are working site-specific in Stadsgårdsterminalen at the big, for those who don't know, the big cultural hub in the middle of Slussen. It's the very big house that used to be the boat station. So they're exhibiting inside. Jonna is a mural artist and Agnieszka is an architect, and she's working with visual arts. She has created this fantastic, I have seen it, window foil art, but also a painting on the other side, and they're waiting for you. And now it's time to introduce you our two people that came from abroad here, and they just ended their international residency. So there are two people, obviously. We have Gisela Stigler, and we have Selina Chiklek, something like that. You will say that yourself. I'm very good in Polish. So I would like to invite first Gisela. Is Gisela here? Where are you? Come here. So Gisela will talk with us about her month here and what she has achieved.
Do you want me to be here in Chile? I could do it by myself. Hello, everybody. I'm Gisela Stigler from Austria, and I'm glad to present my work for Turning the Tide. It is called a boy sculpture. It is a sculpture in water. It is a monument for turning the tide. A boy sculpture, a storytelling sculpture and monument for turning the tide. The sculpture will be anchored in Slussen as interface for urban infrastructure, interface for water. As you all know, fresh water and salt water meets, as we heard today, very interesting performance from the government of this from Slussen, and it is a breaking point for the future. Slussen is an area in the center of Stockholm where everything comes together. Trains, underground trains, ships, ferries, thousands of people commuting between Södermalm and Gamla stan. A place of change, full movement, transitions, and contrasts. Here, diversity and dynamism of the 21st century society can be seen. The central idea of this culture, the form is an axis. It gives the place a center. The column represents an essential anchor point in my own artistical work. It stands for democracy and for humanity itself. The boy column in Slussen is the anchor point of democracy and a visible monument for turning the tide. I think this is somehow necessary to give all these complex ideas out, that not just a bubble sees or hears the ideas and the science movements, although that you see it outside. So the normal people and everybody who's not so much into it can see it immediately. It floats in the water, but unlike Atlantis, it does not sink. Design and symbolism. The sculpture is 4 meters high from the water level and goes down 4 meters. The rings that pierces the shaft contradicts its heroic uprightness. It is a sign of resistance. And you could build the column like endless, like a turn and a ring. You could build it like the Brancusi sculpture in Romania. It is a eternity sculpture. And violet is an artificial color that somehow integrates with the water and gives it also a contrast. And furthermore, violet does not compete with maritime boys. The sculpture as a boy, the sculpture is mounted on a buoy. It swings with the water level. You can literally dock on the buoy sculpture, boats, floating people, dreams, ideas. And to communicate, you could also bring some QR code to bring all the projects of turning the tide through. You could communicate through this QR code. And the sculpture also becomes a measuring stand, an indicator of the situation we find ourselves in. The implementation. I have selected two possible locations for the sculpture, one nearby Gamla stan and one in the no man's land between these two bridges. And the sculpture will be constructed in Austria from metal, galvanized and powder coated. It will be placed on a buoy built by a Swedish company and anchored to the seabed with a concrete block. It's quite deep inside, as we heard today, so it will work. Here are these two possible positions. And another Austrian artist was working in Slussen, Oskar Kokoschka. He has to escape from the First World War, from all the regressions in Austria, and he was painting in Slussen, former and old harbor of Stockholm. And it was an exhibition during the World War 1917 in Stockholm from the Wiener Moderne. It's interesting to have this kind of bridge from Vienna to Stockholm. And another bridge back to Vienna is the Slussen twin Oskar in the Seestadt Vienna. I will show you some reference projects, what I did outside. mainly. A residency highlight was the trash art workshop with school kids, 12 years old. It is to explore a new way of engagement and ecological transformation through the arts. It was really interesting how quick the children was in the project, and in Austria you say they get außer Rand und Band. There is no explanation in English, it's out of control, but this is not true also. And thanks to Turning the Tide, to all supporters, especially to Karin and Bernd. Without them, I would not be here. And I have to say, it was a big pleasure to work with Intercult, with Elizabeth, Ivona, with Hannah, with Karin, with Sean. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe we have some questions for Gisela?
When will it be finished?
Sorry?
When will it be finished?
Yeah, as soon as possible. No, we have to go further with the project.
Yes, but in a year or?
Yeah, it could be finished in a year if we can start.
Just to let you know, obviously it's not a final construction that will be done, but it's a proposal. Gisela used this month of residency to make the proposal to the city. Of course, we don't know, we don't have a timeline or we don't have any confirmation yet. It's just her work on the city and how she reflects on what she sees. It's not something official here. Anyone else?
Is the sculpture in Vienna in the Seestadt, is this already existing or is this also a proposal?
It's also a photo collage. It is a sculpture existing in Linz at the Kepler University. I showed it in the reference project there. It's real, 6 meter high. And I had one, this is a real one. And the other one was a half a year in the Jesuitenkirche in Vienna. It was 11.5 meters high. So, but to build something in a water is something special. So, yeah, it remembers to Atlantis and to everything, to the losing culture, and we have it so deeply in us, this form. So it would be, I think it would, for the climate thematic, a good way to make a communication for the outside.
Any other questions? No? Okay, then we thank you so much,
Thank you.
Gisela. Thank you. So now we can continue with Selena. No. Someone help me. Karin, yes, you're my person.
Hello. I'm Selina. My surname is Przyplank. It's a kind of hard name, but
it's not my fault. See?
I'm here for art residency. I'm a video artist, and I would tell you shortly about my work here, and then you will see what I managed to do in 1 month. So it's kind of a short time to build whole narrative and video and to make it make it finished, but I manage it. And I'm video artist that is interested in video art and video dance. So I'm connecting these two fields together. And this time I decided to collaborate with Zoe that she was mentioned. She was working in Greece. And we collaborated, we made a choreography to the film, and also I collected the stories from local people. The stories that I was asked were fairy tales. They remember from their childhood that they stayed in their identity. And I was also curious about these fairy tales that were connecting to water, and why I was so interested in them, because these whole stories had one common thing, a fear. Like fear was heart of every of this fairy tale. And I think that in topic of climate change, we are connecting to fears, a lot of fears. As a young woman living in Poland, I could admit that fear is something really constant, and I think it's also good to adapt to this fear, to not escape from it, but to fulfill it and somehow. And when I was a child, and probably we are when we were a child, and we were scared from something, someone would tell us some story, and this fear becomes smaller. So I think this is the truth, because also we cannot really, make clever decisions with constant fear. And I would say also one interesting story about myself, because I'm working also as a film editor, and I used to work in television. So I know how mass media and how to create a message of fear and panic. And it's profitable because, people that are making these stories are based on sensation than on real facts. It's more profitable to make more panic attacks or than real stories that could adapt a fear. So that's why I focus on fairy tales from the core of our identity and our childhood fears. And I think it's also a really useful tool for nowadays when we need new narrations. And the stories that I collected here, I put in one story, new one, about current situation in Slussen. And yeah, I could now launch the film, and then maybe we can talk about this.
Det var en gång några fiskare
som fick upp en liten människoliknande varelse på sina fiskeredskap. Han var levande och de tog honom med sig hem till Gullholmen och uppfostrade honom. Han blev fiskare och han hade alltid en ovanligt god fisketur. Han lärde också andra fiskare hur de skulle bära sig åt. Häng långkniven i början av backa så får ni mycket fisk, sa han en gång till några fiskare. De gjorde så och fick större fångst än de annars brukade få.
Efter det fiskade ingen lika bra som han. Men några sa att när han sov kunde man höra vågornas brus i hans andning och hans blick speglades havets djup. De visste inte att han var havets barn, ett sändebud från varelsen som sov i djupet under bron. Människorna kallade henne för trollet, men de gamla viskade ett annat namn. Vattenmonstret, väktaren av det friska vattnet.
Vem är det som trampar på min bro?
Det är bara den minsta bocken Bruse. Jag ska bara upp på fjället och äta mig fet.
Då kommer jag ta dig, sa trollet. Åh nej, ta inte mig. Vänta på den som kommer efter. Han är mycket större. Trollet lät.
Dånade det ibland under bron? Bron dånade som en trumma. Det var monstrets hjärta som slog i tid med tidvattnet. När någon gick över med respekt var havet stilla. När människor började håna och stampa högt, då vaknade trollet. En dag kom torkan. Vattnet i brunnarna blev svart. Havet luktade salt och förruttnelse. Pojken från Gullholmen, nu gammal, sa att han måste återvända till havet.
Och då rodde han ut på havet och hoppade i. Och sen kom han aldrig mer tillbaka. Men lite efter det att han hoppat i blev det en förfärlig storm.
Innan vågorna tog honom helt kom något vitt upp ur djupet.
Där låg hon i många år. Hennes kropp slungades fram och tillbaka av vågorna. Fiskar åt av hennes hud. Sniglar sög hennes blod tills hon en dag bara var ett skelett. En dag kom en ung fiskare från byn. Han var omedveten om att platsen han fiskade på sades vara farlig. Han fick napp på sin krok och började veva upp linan utan att inse att han hade fångat skelettkvinnan. Kroken satt fast i hennes revben. Han vevade upp linan och trodde det var en stor, tung fisk på slutet av linan. Men till sin förvåning upptäckte han skelettkvinnan. Hennes vita ben stack upp över kanten på hans båt. Han började panikartat ro i land för att komma bort från henne. Han hoppade ur båten och började springa genom byn. Men skelettkvinnan satt fortfarande fast på hans krok.
Fiskaren flydde, men han kunde inte fly från henne. Till slut samlade han sitt mod och för hon var samma kraft som renar vattnet och andas under bron.
Medan han trasslade ut henne ur linan så sjöng han på en sång hans mor hade lärt honom när han var liten. När hon var helt urtrasslad så kände han sig fruktansvärt trött. Han somnade. Skelettkvinnan var livrädd. Men hon hörde hans hjärta dunka. Dunk, 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 dunk. Hjärtat lät som en trumma. Dunk, 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 dunk. Livets trumma. Hon reste sig sakta upp och började gå mot mannen. Hon kunde inte motstå. Hon stack ner sin hand genom hans bröstkorg, tog upp hjärtat ur hans kropp och började slå på det som en trumma. Medan hon slog så kände hon hur blodet, huden växte tillbaka. Hennes långa svarta hår, hennes tår, hennes naglar. Hon var en människa igen.
Sedan den dagen blev vattnet i floderna klart igen. Människor drack, badade och gladdes och glömde återigen vem de hade att tacka för livet. Och när de glömde började monstret växa.
Kom det en stor monster med katthud. Om den andra kom en jättestor svart orm. De sätter sig ihop och de blev en jättestor hemsk monster som skrämde folk hela tiden. Och det blev större och större och större. Tills en stor och klok man kom och han var jättestark och han läggde och han tog monstret och läggde den i en sten jättestark. Och om du har otur, då kan du hitta den sen.
Så fängslades monstret i stenen under bron så att människorna kunde leva i fred. Men fred utan tacksamhet lever med. Det började saknas vatten att dricka. Havet fanns kvar, men det var salt och tungt och främmande. De gamla sa till de unga, vatten finns överallt, men inte allt vatten går att dricka. När du glömmer monstret blir havet bara salt. När du hedrar det blir vattnet sött och livet återvänder. För monstret är inte ont. Det är vattnets minne, dess hjärta som slår under bron. Man måste sjunga till det, som fiskaren sjöng för skelettkvinnan. Man måste rena vattnet, ta hand om det, inte skräpa ner, inte slå det med tyg, inte krångla det med högmod. Bara då talar vattnet ner. För när monstret tystnar återstår bara den salta tystnaden. Och det finns verkligen inget vatten kvar att dricka.
Where is the microphone?
It's a pity that it was disturbed, but you can see it all downstairs. Once again, if you would like to do it. Yeah, maybe not. Don't.
I'm not touching anything.
And also, during this process, like this art residency, I came up to the idea that maybe it would be nice to continue this work in different regions, to collect stories from, then from mountains, from valleys, from different regions of Europe, and to collect the stories and build some short forms of video arts and that could change a little bit narration of the problems they have in these regions.
Thank you so much. It was so nice. Any questions for Selena? Okay. So that was the closing presentation. Thank you so much, everyone, for today. Before I forget, tomorrow we'll have, of course, 2 more days of Turning the Tide Stockholm Lab program. Tomorrow we start a bit earlier at 11 to 1, and we have an art fair and all the local and international artists that work in Stockholm, but also invited guests from artists from Austria, from Poland, and from Greece. will present their work we are at Kulturhuset Foyer 3. So yes, thank you, Karin. So you can see the program no? No, you cannot see the program. But anyway, so you can see the program. We have a full day we're starting first with the art fair, and of course we have a full day program with many talks, discussions, and also some small surprises performances. You're all welcome, and thank you so much for today. Yes, of course, it's in English every day. Thank you.